Today, we're ranking every single player in a Bluelock'S first U20 World Cup match. Japan versus Nigeria. 11 players on Nigeria's side, 13 players on a Bluelock'S side. The opening match had some of the most fire moments coming from our boys, and also generational slander on top of that. Y'all already know the drill by now. We're going over every player, how they played, giving them a ranking of 1 through 10 based on their performance in the most brutal way possible. This is all so we could see who were the real star players of this match and who put up a fraudulent performance. Who put up a... Starting things off, as always, with our main boy, Isagi Yoichi, which right off the bat, he actually had a controversial performance this game. What I mean by controversial was there was a war between the community of Isagi Glazers versus the midfielder Merchant allegations. So much slander was going on. So it wasn't like the PXG game where Isagi was scoring multiple goals, defending destroyer mode Rin, stopping plays by himself. Looking back, that was low-key insane. That being said though, we're here to look at the game stats and his impact on the game. And if we're being brutally honest, yeah, Isagi did good this match. What are y'all talking about? He was stopping Nigeria's plans. He kind of assisted Bachara. He was getting glazed by Kuso and even the goddamn coach. So he must have been doing something right. But for real, Isagi was dictating this match through his brain, and that's the best way to put it. Figuring out how to win in the first 2 minutes, suggesting new attacking formations, and even motivating the enemy team to become stronger. You know how crazy you have to be to motivate the enemy team to become stronger as part of your game plan, and then have that game plan work? Because it culminated into his final goal where he was able to adapt because of Onazi, hit this Sunisa Lee acrobatic jump, and then shoot the goalkeeper with his concealed carry. Like, that doesn't even sound real, dog. Maybe we can expect this from Nagi Seishiro, but seeing Isagi pull this off, I know, we were all shocked. We saw him pressing Onazi and other characters, even stealing possession from people like Bello, so he was actively participating in both defense and offense. On paper, Isagi being at cam did numbers for his slander and agenda against him. Honestly, the hate was kind of funny, but let's be real, he did good in this match. Arguably a top 3, top 2 performance, so for his rating, he's getting a 9 out of 10. So a very strong start with the ratings, but someone that had the complete opposite performance in this game was Hiyori. The fall off genuinely needs to be studied because bro just got ignored this match. He had 1 pass and then a take this and take that shot, which got blocked by the goalkeeper. Hiyori was just a nothing sandwich. It makes me want to look back at the glory days like during Ubers or hell, even PXG. He for real went from 0 to hero and back to 0. And Itoshi Sai is eventually going to join the team too, and you know he's gonna be a starter, so Hiyori is genuinely counting his days. I'm just being real because I like Hiyori. In fact, one of my first videos was talking about how he's underrated. It's like a tough love statement because even though I like him, I can't deny he did bad in this match specifically. We didn't even see him use Metavision 2, like keep it up with numbers like this and we're not seeing the pitch ever again. We're gonna be hitting Fukaku levels of bench warming. So before we rate Hiyori, I want to keep in mind 2 things, the Bluelock'S scale and the Nigeria scale, just so you guys know how I'm rating this. In terms of the Bluelock'S scale, Hiyori had the worst performance out of the whole team. There's no denying that. But compare his performance to the Nigeria squad, and he literally has a top 5 performance. I know we didn't see the full Nigeria match, so obviously he may have off-screen feats, as stated by Karasu, but still, we didn't see much. We're going off of the Bluelock'S scale, and being brutal here, Hiyori gets like a 1 out of 10 performance for this game. I'm hoping the best for you, dog. Bring back those Uber numbers. Let's move on to our first Nigeria player, and that's Aboa Bona. I genuinely think he's one of the better players from Nigeria's side. Now, that's not really a high bar, but he pretty much defended Rin on 2 separate occasions, which prevented them from getting embarrassed even harder. Even the Nigeria fans were screaming in joy for probably the first time in that whole match, because let's be honest, what else could they be happy about? On top of having a fire name, he started a lot of counters for Nigeria's side. But for every good thing you can highlight, I guess you can point out that 4 goals were conceded. He let a lot of shots go through. This panel of him staring at Bachara point blank, pretty much Fortnite emo on him after he scored, did him dirty, dog. But taking into account everything, I would honestly give Aboa Bona a 6 out of 10, which for Nigeria standard, it's pretty good. And I know everyone's been waiting for a certain character to be ranked. you could say he is the most anticipated character in this list. It's time for the generational Kuso slander, which honestly, I could write an hour-long essay, a whole video documentary on Kuso. This man was the mayor of Shocked Town, and as a collective, the amount of slander we gave Kuso rivaled the Mount Rushmore of Bluelock frauds. Hell, he might even be the new addition. But slander like this wasn't made overnight. It took countless chapters to build it up brick by brick. So let's start at the beginning of Kuso's character. Chapter 312 introduced us to bro, and looking at his character design, it was pretty fire. Like, we thought he was gonna be a better Yukimiya. But quickly we found out he was Yukimiya from Temu, because even though we found out he was the captain and quickly dribbled past Isagi and made a pass nutmegging Rin, that literally ends the Kuso highlights for the first half. Week by week we saw him and it just got worse and worse. Like, I really wish I was exaggerating this, because he was getting beat by players like Nico and started building his reputation as the D1 Isagi meat writer. I want y'all to guess how many times Kuso says Isagi in this match, because after rereading the whole game for this video, I counted at least 12 times. 12 compliments, 12 glazes in a single game coming from a single character is diabolical. I challenge you to reread or rewatch the chapter review videos, because the amount of times he actually glazes Isagi is so comedic. Watching Kuso glaze and build his reputation as the #1 Isagi fan is genuinely like watching the Mona Lisa get painted, because Bachira will score a goal and he'll say it's all thanks to Isagi Yoichi. There will be 10 other players to receive a pass and he'll say don't let Isagi get the ball. I swear, he was writing Shakespeare passages to confess his love for bro. Hopefully, one day I could be 1% as good as you, Isagi Yoichi. Probably Kuso. And it happened week by week. Like, every single chapter had Kuso glazing Isagi. But that's not all, folks. There's one more thing Kuso was known for, and that was being shocked. Every time Bluelock did any single thing in the game, bro just looked dumbfounded, like he's just seen a ghost. Seriously, my man was stunned. It's like he was programmed for 2 things and 2 things only: to praise Isagi and to be surprised. Everything else was out of his skill set. But let's take a break from the slander and actually look at his stats to rate him properly. Goodness gracious, the amount of times Kuso was just straight up disrespected was crazy. He was quite literally the punching bag of the game. There's no better definition than that. Everyone was bullying him, stealing his money, got him looking like goddamn Miles Morales when he was trying to leave the Spider Society. Rin on his right blocking his shot. Nico turned into Peter Parker holding him back like he held the train. Bachira zipped on past him. Karasu stealing his pass and him having to 1v2 Isagi and Ryo. And not to mention, his last moment of the game is getting beat by his lord and savior. And bro, peep Kuso! Nah, he's on the ground and everything. What is this whoopsie daisy aw panel? Bro's laid out like a picnic table. That is the most insane panel to end your game on. I know all 2 Kuso fans were crying when they saw Kuso splishing and splashing around. I know they had to give up hope after that. I'm not gonna highlight the relying on Onazi thing, because it's understandable why he thinks he's their shining hope. Kaneshiro cooked with Nigeria's writing and backstories. I absolutely love that. But yeah, not even 3 backstories could help bro awaken fast enough. I will say though, even with all of that slander and all the disrespect he had, he did have a pretty big moment towards the end of the game. Chapter 323 released, and Kuso actually got some feats. We see him weave Karasu on 2 separate occasions and then hit Rail with the smell you later. Raichi slams into him, and now he got 3 broken ribs thanks to bro, but even then, he still manages to get across past Ryu, which is actually really good. He pretty much did everything he could here, which is really respectable. If it was any other player, everyone would be saying how good this is. And there was also other times where he got some crosses off or dribbled past players. Other frauds like Wakatsuki legit didn't do anything, so I can't rate him too low, even though I love slandering him. We all gotta be honest, he did good for Nigeria standards. The times where he was actually able to show off his skills really proved he was up there as the 2nd best of the Nigeria squad. And we gotta be fair to bro, he was saucing up Bluelock during those times. So taking in account of both his negatives, like losing to someone twice as small, not living up to the captain standards, all the other things I talked about, as well as his positive moments like his good passes and dribbling, I think Kuso fairly deserves a 6.5 out of 10. Because we're being honest, y'all, he definitely had the 2nd best performance for Nigeria. After all that Kuso slander though, I need a bit of a cleanse, and that comes from my boy Itoshi Rin. Y'all already know he's my favorite character, but I'm gonna try my best to be unbiased here. Now, I think with Rin, one of the biggest questions for this match was who did better, Isagi or Rin? It's the age-old question everyone asks. Rin had a goal in this match in a very stylish way too, a shot on target in the first chapter, and he also mastered destroyer mode, dribbling past so many different players at so many different times. Like every Isagi and Rin debate though, it boils down to two things and what you personally value more. Rin had a very good individual performance, showing his prowess as a striker, dribbling past everyone. As for Isagi, he didn't dribble past as many players, but still managed to score a goal, control the game, and do a whole lot of other things. And just ripping off the band-aid, I don't think Rin was playing his absolute best, like what he's usually capable of, because back then, Destroyer Mode had Bastard fearing for their lives. Like, seriously, what was that? But anyways, I bring it up here because call it plot, call it narrative, I do think Rin didn't get as much highlight in this game, more to save him for later games with Sai. Don't get me wrong, he did really good, one of the best players in this game. Before his ranking, I think Rin could do a lot better. We've seen him do a lot better. And as much as it pains my heart to do so, I'm gonna give him an 8.5, which is just half a point lower than Isagi. So we've been covering a lot of big players in this match, your Isagi Yoichis, your Itoshi Rins, but what about the characters that weren't as important? What about the characters like Sadiq? If y'all don't know who Sadiq is, this is a defensive midfielder for Nigeria that more or less stepped up to the plate. He was a background character that had no introduction like the 4 players of Nigeria, yet he was still getting a lot of dialogue. He got promoted from NPC to a side character, which is genuinely a feat in of itself. I mean, the ambition you gotta have to run in against Chigiri and Ryo. Sadiq, I wasn't familiar with your game. And then he ran in towards the end to try and tap in Onazi's blocked shot. Yeah, I can give you an A+ for effort. And I think that's what differentiates him from the other Nigeria background characters, which I got a few choice words for later on in this video, but he actually did something in this match. So I gotta give him an A+ for effort. Did the effort really result in much? Nah, not really. Onazi more or less got the ball after Sadiq got pressed, but remember his expectations. Nobody thought he would do anything. Compare his expectations to someone like Fiori, who was expected to do a lot and didn't do a lot. So because of that, I'm rating Sadiq higher and giving him a 2 out of 10. And since we're on the topic of low ratings, Raichi is unfortunately down here in the ratings for this match. Yeah, not gonna lie, they could have just kept Chigiri in and nothing really would have changed. I mean, he did something. He pressed Onazi with Corona, leading them to get the ball, and also body slammed Kuso Randy Orton style, but he still managed to get the pass off. I thought he would at least block Onazi for the last play because, you know, that's his whole weapon, but instead Isagi stole the whole show. We can't be too harsh because he played for such little time, especially considering 15 minutes in Blue Lock is actually like 1 minute in real time. So I think he deserves a 4 out of 10, which all things considering isn't too bad for how little he had to work with. Another player that was pretty disappointing this match was Nico. As time went on, he kind of just disappeared. But during the first half, he was actually doing a lot. You could say he was actually a top 3 player at the start. Like, he blocked Onazi's shot, he held back Kuso and gave the ball to Ryo, but then after that he got hit with the worst weapon in fiction, side character syndrome. His 2 minutes of screen time was up. Like, genuinely, where did he go? Y'all know I reread the game and I couldn't find bro anywhere during the second half besides maybe twice. If he kept up his performance throughout the match, I would argue he would be a top 5 player for Blue Lock in this game. Especially because it was looking that way towards the start of the game. Everyone liked Nico, but since he ghosted towards the end of the second half, I'm gonna give Nico a 5 out of 10, which is quite unfortunate because he was shaping up to have a really good game. His defensive counterpart, Ryu, really only had one big moment in this game, but we saw him a lot trying to defend, unlike Nico. He opened up a simple domain, forcing Onazi to pass, and every time Onazi or Kuso is passing, you can see him there actively trying to block it with his height. Now, again, it didn't really result in much because most of the time he was watching it fly past him, but his presence did help a lot for defense. I still think he's a little lower than Nico. He still did all right. It wasn't no Hiyori performance, so I'm gonna give him a 4.5 out of 10. To wrap up the defense for Blue Lock, Captain Aiku is here. Out of the 3, he undeniably did the best. His analysis skills were actually useful during the game. 1 chapter in, and he realized that Nigeria just passes to Onazi to score goals. And then after that, we saw him block some balls, and then obviously clutched out a defense against an awakened Onazi. The only thing is every player for Bluelock'S defense didn't really have to do much because Nigeria didn't do much. Like, Aboabona had to do a lot more on defense just simply because of Bluelock'S constant offense, but in Aiku's case, he really only had that one standout moment against Onazi. You could make the argument that the one time he needed to defend against the final boss, he actually pulled it off. In general though, Bluelock'S defense numbers just got screwed over a little bit because they didn't have to do much. Because of that, I'm rating Aiku a 6 out of 10 for this game. I still think he scales next to Aboabona, maybe just a tad bit lower, but it's so incrementally lower that it doesn't really matter. We did a lot of Bluelock'S, so let's jump back to Nigeria and talk about their goalkeeper, Agbim. Now, obviously, he conceded 4 goals, but I can't really blame bro, because his defensive line was straight garbage. Like, they only had Aboabona there. He had no help. You can tell Agbim doesn't ask for much in life and still gets disappointed. Every single time he's shown on screen, he just knows he's cooked. So if you look at straight stats, he's actually comparable to Fukaku Gen. They conceded 4 goals and blocked 1, but the Nigeria defense is worse than the U20 defense, so Fukaku is still worse. I rated Fukaku a 4 out of 10 in the U20 video, which I don't know what possessed me to rate him so high, but I think Agbim deserves a 3 out of 10, maybe even a 4 out of 10. Since we covered the Nigeria goalkeeper, let's go over to Gagamaru, our side's goalkeeper. Now, like the defensive line, there wasn't really much to do in this match for Gagamaru. He could have just slept if we're being honest, but we saw him get a good block against Onazi. And then he dropped Gojo's domain expansion as his block celebration, so plus points for aura farming. But this is his first clean sheet, so props to our boy. It was definitely more of a collective effort than Gagamaru doing a whole lot by himself, so I'm gonna give our boy a strong 6, but you could argue 7. There was a lot of other Bluelock'S that I think did pretty good as well. Corona, I think, deserves a pretty high rating. He only played for 15 minutes like Raichi, but unlike Raichi, he did way more than him. In fact, I think he had a bigger contribution than Nico. Pressing Onazi, leading to the ball, and of course, the final clutch clear, which led to Isagi getting the ball and scoring. If you're a Corona fan, you were eating a 5-star buffet because I don't think anyone expected him to sub on in the first place. We didn't see Planet Hotline, but I think that just makes it way more anticipated for other games, and I guarantee if he played longer, we probably would have seen it, and he would have been even higher. So for now, I'm giving Corona a 6 out of 10. Alright, the player that got subbed off for him, Chigiri, is next, and he low-key got the Hiyori treatment just a bit better. He gets a shot off that gets blocked, and then also zips past some players to get a good cross, as well as defend with Ryo. But I mean, Chigiri ran on the pitch just as fast as he ran off of it. Let's be honest here, folks, they're definitely just saving him for the France game. They didn't even put him on the side of his 44 Panther snipe. No goal, no backstory, no training. Yeah, he's definitely gonna have a speed off against Loki, so I don't even mind the mid performance here. It's very unfortunate, but I think I'm gonna give Chigiri a 3.5 out of 10. He definitely did better than Hiyori, but for all the Chigiri fans, your time is coming soon. Alright, going back to the Nigeria players, let's talk about one of the 4 main players, Bello. Now, in Bello's case, we gave Kuso a lot of slack, but that was mostly because of the Isagi glaze. I would say Bello definitely did the worst out of the 4. He did some ring around the rosies against some of the Bluelock'S, got a little bit of passes through, but that's about it. Like, he did all right. He also gave moral support to the team when they were down 3-0. I mean, this led Isagi to trash talk them, but he's doing a better job than the coach, so a 5 out of 10 for Bello. And since we just talked about him, I gotta give a special thank you. Thank you for absolutely nothing, Gambari. I don't usually rate the coaches, but bro, what tomfoolery was this guy pulling? How is he the coach? This tablet is literally for show. I guarantee if you flip it around, there is nothing on it. Bro rolled over like a dog and started smiling instead of suggesting his own game plan. Onazi was a better coach than bro. Isagi was a better coach than bro. Bello was a better coach than bro. Top 10 mysteries in the world is what does Gambari do? A 0 out of 10 performance. Negative performance. Wakatsuki performance. He did nothing. The other Nigeria players weren't any better too. These guys were just doing cardio running a marathon. All they were doing this match was just running around. I'd be pissed if I was Aboabona, having this trash can defensive line. At least Onazi had Bello and Kuso to help him. Aboabona had the trash can friends as his help. I wouldn't even give them a participation award. You showed up award is probably more fitting. Negative 10 out of 10. Alright, we're wrapping it up with 4 more players left. There's one character I know a lot of y'all have been waiting for, and that's Mikage Ryo. Getting his big moment in this match with a goal Hiryo is really showing up recently, especially as a striker. He weaved through the whole Nigeria team with Bachara and then instantly changed to Jagiri to score, which was a very unexpected goal. However, the goal does kind of carry him because after the goal, we didn't really see him do much, but I'm glad development-wise, he's doing things on his own. He's scoring and actually using copy offensively. I think they're purposefully underutilizing copy to save it for later. I can't wait for the game where we see him be in every single position, a defender, a midfielder, and a forward, really showing how he's an all-rounder. I mean, that's pretty much Isagi, though, because he's defending every time, too, but you get the point. Hiryo is literally my profile picture, but I have to be as fair as possible. He did good, but I do think he could have done better. Now I sound like an Asian parent, but Hiryo is going to get a 7.5. Karasu is next, and I think he's a character where I don't think he did bad. He didn't have any crazy standout plays, though. He stole possession a few times and was stated to be controlling the midfield. He also helped Isagi move up for his final play. I feel like every time I rate Karasu, he's just Goldilocks approved. Not too hot, not too cold, just right in the middle. He did lose the ball a few times to Kuso, and he didn't even use Metavision, so overall, I'm gonna give Karasu a 6. A pretty strong performance for this game. We're down to our final two characters, and one person I know everyone's looking forward to, Bachara Meguru. This man, Bachara, had 1 goal and 3 assists in a single match. Need I say more? Everyone thought after his goal he was done, but nah. He had to spin the block on Nigeria 3 more times for the assists. Even just the goal itself was hype as hell and pretty unexpected. It got Kuso in shambles, which I know isn't a hard task, but yeah. And then one chapter later, he's out here aura farming, moving up the field with Hiryo in the most fashionable way possible. This just proves Bachara really had the trash can friends on FC Barca, because right as he gets a good team, he starts pulling off performances like this, and even during the NEL, he was solo carrying. I could sing the praises of Bachara in this game for a very long time, but let's talk about his rating. In general, his performance in this match is like a top 5 dominant performance in the whole entire series from one singular character. To put it on a different scale, he outperformed itoshi-sized performance in the U20 based on goals and assists. The only players you could argue had a better performance in this match would be Isagi and Rin, and still there is no contest between them and Bachara. I still don't think both of them reached where Bachara went. Easily the best performance from Blue Lock, easily the MVP of this match as a whole. I think it's fair to rate Bachara's performance an 11 out of 10, the highest rating in this game. But that's not all, folks, because we're missing one more major player, the ace of Nigeria, Onazi. Where does he rate in this game? Now, right out of the gate, the reason why I saved Onazi for last is because he is one of the hardest players to rate in this game, because you do have to take into account multiple factors. By far, no one can argue that Onazi is the ace of Nigeria, but at the same time, they didn't even score a goal. A lot of people will just look at the scoreboard and realize he didn't score, and yes, I agree, no goals is a bad look, but everything else he did was saving this team. First chapter, he somehow teleported and blocked Rin's shot. Another occurrence, he blocked Rin's shot, and he was just a constant player on both defense and offense, even as the sole striker. I know y'all still remember that Mammoth panel. The whole point of this match was Onazi was limited by his relationship with the Nigeria team. Once he started to pursue his own ego, bro started performing like crazy. I mean, unfortunately, it was already like 3-0, so there was no point in a comeback, but Onazi in this last play still awakened, spinning like a Beyblade, and then would have made the shot if not for Aiku awakening. I know for the amount of shots on goal, he didn't make a single one, and that kind of brings down his rating, but he still performed the best on Nigeria. It's just a matter on where does he get rated compared to the others. His individual performance, I think, rates him above a player like Hiryo, who I rated a 7.5. Even though Hiryo made a goal, Onazi's other contributions to the game, I think, were just as valuable, if not a little bit more. His performance is more comparable to a player like Rin, where they were very active on the ball and also on defense, just Onazi didn't make a goal like Rin. So I think he's a little bit below him at a very solid score of an 8 out of 10. Almost 2 whole points above the rest of the Nigeria team. And with that, that's every single player brutally rated in Bluelock'S Japan versus Nigeria match. Remember, these videos are just my thoughts on it, meant to entertain. Everyone has their own opinions on what they think their rating was. And also keep in mind, these are ratings for specifically this match. For example, someone like Hiyori is a good player who performed well in the NEL, but for this game specifically, he didn't do that good, and that's why he has a lower rating. Make sure to leave your thoughts down below, whether you agree or disagree with my ratings, and while you're down there, you might as well hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Blue Lock. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching as always. YouTube really thinks you like this video right here, so be sure to check that one out too. I appreciate y'all so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.